I thought one thing that we would talk about today, and I know this is a topic that is near and dear to all of our hearts, are the mistakes that a lot of entrepreneurs make when they are moving into the digital world. And you can waste a ton of time, a ton of money, and really do a lot of things you don't need to do when you become digital. Steve, you want to kick us off? Do you remember some of the mistakes that you've made along the way? Hey guys, welcome back to the Digital Entrepreneur Show. This is the show where we talk about everything digital when it pertains to entrepreneurship and small business. Tim Knox is my name. My co-host, as usual, Professor Nez. Nez, how are you?
Hey, good to see you, Tim.
And Steve Gamlin. Steve, how are you, buddy?
Doing great. Great to be back with you guys.
Great to have you here. We are here for another show. This is a show where we talk about everything digital, websites, blogs, SEO, audio, video. We cover things that are digitally entrepreneur, or is it entrepreneurially digital, Nez? You're the professor.
No adverbs here. Digital. Yeah. Grammar. I'm not a grammatician. I never said I was a good writing professor.
A grammatician. I like that.
A grammatician.
So, hey, this show comes to you every 30 minutes, actually for 30 minutes twice a week now, guys. We are coming out Tuesday and Friday, every Tuesday and Friday at noon Pacific time, or as Nez would say, specific time. And we also do live chats in between. So today on the show, we're going to do what we always do. We are talking about how you entrepreneurs, be you online or off, can use all things digital to start, run, and grow your business and make some more money. And money's good, right, Nez?
Yeah. Hell yeah.
Steve does everything, for the world. Nez and I, we want some money.
That mortgage bill, passion is great, but it doesn't pay the mortgages.
You know what? You never see rich poets.
There's a reason for that.
Well, hey, what do I want to talk about today? We've kind of been going in progression. On the first show, we talked about what is digital entrepreneurship, and then we talked about next steps, how to get started. We've talked about websites and blogs. We've talked social media. I thought one thing that we would talk about today, and I know this is a topic that is near and dear to all of our hearts, are the mistakes that a lot of entrepreneurs make when they are moving into the digital world. And you can waste a ton of time, a ton of money, and really do a lot of things you don't need to do when you become digital. Steve, you want to kick us off? Do you remember some of the mistakes that you've made along the way?
Oh, it's only a half-hour show, right?
Yeah. Just list the top 50.
Just the top, yeah.
The top 50. I'll just list all the even-numbered ones.
There you go.
Yeah. A lot of the mistakes I did early on were not knowing my message. First off, when I started off as a speaker now 13 years ago, it was what do you speak on? Oh, I can speak on anything. Well, who do you speak to? I can speak to anybody. I very quickly found out early in my career at a live speaking event that nearly killed me that not everyone is my audience. So with these little learning experiences and having to give back some money to a particular HR director who was ready to kill me, I decided that maybe it's better if I don't just say everything to everyone and start analyzing what I really had to share with the world digitally and live, and to see who the best audience would be and how best to share it with them. So the everything to everyone across the board thing, that went away fairly quickly and painfully.
Yeah, I think there tends to be, among new entrepreneurs, they want to follow the Walmart model, all things to all people. And not even Walmart can follow the Walmart model anymore, right? Because it's just, and Nez, you might want to speak to this, you can't be all things to all people. So I think the focus or the key there from Steve is to pick a niche and make sure you know your message before you go out. Nez, you want to highlight a couple of oohs and uh-ohs you've made along the way?
Absolutely. As people before me have said, the riches are in the niches. Okay. So it's really important to nail down specifically who you are, what you want to profess. I didn't even mean to say that, but there's no pun intended. But what's your message? How do you help people? How do you serve people? How do you entertain them? Are you educational? Are you inspirational? whatever that is, you really need to, as Steve said so perfectly, you need to pin that down specifically, and don't be afraid to ask your audience as well. I like to do this all the time on my live streams, is I like to ask my audience, and I know we all, we're on YouTube and we like to do this, excuse me, we like to do this on YouTube too. Leave down in the comments below a call to action. Let us know what's working. Let us know what's not working. What do you want to see more of and why? Don't be afraid. This is what I love about live video. This is what I love about live streaming, is you can directly interact with your audience and get the direct in real time, get the reaction specifically. So the mistakes that yeah, a lot of mistakes. But, I think that's a good one to start with, is to really sort of examine, self-investigate, audit yourself and find out exactly what it is, where you fit, and then go look at the people who are successful in that niche. For example, if you're into fitness, let's say you want to do a fitness type of platform and you want to offer, fitness services through digital coaching or digital consulting or what have you, or digital products, find out what the successful people in the fitness niche, or is it niche? How the hell do you say that?
Here in Alabama, it's a niche.
It's niche.
It rhymes with itch, and you.
Hey, Earl, you got that niche? Okay, so if you find out what the successful people are doing, and then reverse engineer. What does that mean? Find out how they got there. What's successful about them, and then go backwards and find out what steps they took to get there. Yeah. That's really the research and development kind of idea.
I think it's really interesting that we all three started off with the same. I had failure to correctly identify your audience. That's a big one, where you really don't think about who is going to be looking for you online, what they expect to find, how you're going to serve them. We've talked about this before. You get caught up in the cool factor. I want to do that because I think it's cool, not necessarily because my audience is. So we're all in agreement that it is vital that you identify your audience, your customer base, you identify their message, and then you figure out, how do you go about meeting their needs? That really is going to define your next steps.
Otherwise, you're not working productively. Otherwise, you're just, it's like you want to, if we're really going to talk about digital entrepreneurship, we want to work intelligently and we want to be productive and efficient, and you're just going to be wasting time if you don't know who you're speaking to.
Yeah, that leads me to the next topic. On my list, it was failure to research the tech, to understand exactly not only what you want to do, but how to go about doing it. And I've seen this a lot because I do consulting on that side of things. Entrepreneurs who really don't have a clue, because honest to God, unless you are a tech entrepreneur, you're not that techie. You know how to use a computer, but everything else you either farm out or you get your teenage kid to do. So I've seen this time and time again. Entrepreneurs jump out there and buy $10,000 servers and, big fancy computers. They really spend money on things either because they didn't research the tech or they had some consultant tell them that's what they need and then sent them an invoice for it. Steve, have you seen that?
I have seen that. I've seen people who don't even know the first parts yet with their messages and everything, but they go out and they break the bank on the biggest, fastest, newest tech available when they could have done it at a fraction of the budget without all those bells and whistles. It's kind of like the people that go out and they buy all these big fancy tools, and then some guy comes along with a hammer and a saw and a tape measure and actually builds something better and faster than what the other people are. And my biggest example of this was when I built this recording studio about 15 years ago.
Yeah, what'd you spend on that barn wood?
Well, the barn board was actually the cheapest part. That was about $75. I burned through most of a $30,000 line of credit on equipment, on everything built here in the studio. Now, this studio goes 1,000 light years beyond what I actually need to do. It's a great studio, but I didn't have to do that right away. But I didn't ask the right people. I went to places that I saw were the biggest and best in the world, and I copied them instead of people who were on a shoestring budget, still doing good things. And I'm seriously still paying off some of what I created 15 years ago.
Good barnwood is expensive.
Yes, it is. Well, you got to sneak up on the tree and say, hey, I want your buddy over there.
Especially like you, because you go out and cut that stuff down on your own. So, but you make a good point, and I still do this. I've been a digital entrepreneur, 20 years now, and I still will spend money on things. I make the same mistakes that we're talking about here. I've gone through, I don't know how many cameras. I've gone through lighting kits, and what's really funny is I finally settled on something, and it was the first camera that I bought years ago. And right. I finally went, if I had only learned how to use that rather than just, keep plugging and playing. So I want to talk a little bit about, and this kind of goes hand in hand with what we're talking about, is failure to create an online plan. A lot of entrepreneurs do not say, okay, I want to get online. I'm going to research it. I'm going to do this. It really helps if you create almost a step-by-step plan of what you need to do to get from point A to point B. And I think, Steve, you said it in what you just said. You don't have to just dive in, full bore and buy everything and run up a $30,000 line of credit. It's okay to experiment and do things along the way. And Nez, I know you as an academic, you've got to be really big on the planning portion. So just talk a little bit about dotting the I's and crossing the T's before you start spending money at Dell and Best Buy.
Yeah, I mean, absolutely. And yeah, I'm not as much of a planner as I probably should be. I'm unlike any professor out there. But, I think you need to have a comprehensive social strategy. You need to have a comprehensive business plan. You can't just open up shop and expect them to come. You can't just build it and they will come mentality. I think if you're really serious about becoming a digital entrepreneur and you want to make money, you want to succeed, which again, to me, digital entrepreneur is synonymous with freedom, doing what you love to do, monetizing your expertise, monetizing your passion, your desire to break out of the 9-to-5 grind. If that's your interest, coming up with a definite strategy with a definite plan is vital. And yeah, I don't think you need, I think this also relates, if I may, Tim and Steve, this also relates to auditing yourself and knowing who you are. Now, I am really going all in on the coaching, consulting, group coaching, speaking engagements. So I do a lot of stuff with video conferencing. I do a lot of, with my clients. And so I know who I am. I know what I do. So I've optimized my audio as much as possible. I've strategized specifically. I don't have a fancy camera. I definitely don't have fancy lighting, or I'll have a lot prettier. So, I mean, I really optimize what really specifically relates to what value that I bring to my customers. So I invested wisely in audio, and the rest I got really at the base kind of price. I didn't really go all in on that. Now, if I become a Casey Neistat, or if I really go all in on, a certain aspect of my business that requires that, then I need to look into that. But I don't just go out there, as Tim says, just go to Best Buy or Walmart and say, and it's tempting too, isn't it? Tim, you mentioned it's so tempting because these gadgets are attractive. They are sexy gadgets, right? But I think, again, it relates to knowing who you are and what value you bring, and then optimizing strategically the tech, the plan, the platform. I mean, this goes into a whole slew of branches.
Yeah. The one thing you said there that I think is really important is your online plan should be part of your business plan.
Yes.
Because basically what you're doing is you are opening an online or a digital branch of your business. So you've got to look at expenditures. You've got to look at scheduling. You've got to look at, who's going to do what. So it's not as easy as just going over and registering a domain name and throwing up a website. And by the way, we're going to do an entire show on domain names, I believe, coming up next week, which is one of the key elements of branding. So, Steve, let's talk a little bit more about some of the mistakes that you have made or you've seen other digital entrepreneurs make. What do you got?
Yeah, this one actually piggybacks really well on what Nez was just talking about going out there and going whole hog and breaking the bank on stuff. It's something that's actually held me up quite a bit over the years is the lack of knowledge about the tech keeps me from actually making the decision in the first place. So while there have been some times where I've gone out and broken the bank, there are other times I play entrepreneurial Roomba, as I refer to it. You kind of drift in this direction until you hit a wall and you don't know where to go. So you just turn around and go somewhere else. Now, this is the biggest mistake I made rolling out my vision board training program a couple of years ago. Now, I've got a few years into it now, and about 2.5 years ago, I rolled it out as a physical product. It was CD and it was a physical workbook because I didn't know how to do distribution of educational stuff online. I didn't know how to go into that thing digitally until Tim and I had a big conversation in January, and he said, well, I've got this WordPress program. Why don't you just walk through that and let me know if I can help you out? In a month and a half, I did what I couldn't do in the previous 2.5 years because I found the guidance and I found somebody who had done it, and it wasn't as scary anymore. So it's just now rolling out. It should have been 2.5 years ago. But to not play entrepreneurial digital Roomba, if you're stuck on something right now, if you're one of the viewers or listeners to this program, please just stop and figure out what it is that's holding you up and just explore it a little bit. Even if it's reaching out to somebody you know who's already doing it and saying, what's my next step? I mean, there's nothing worse than doing that because I've put myself now a couple of years behind on monetizing this product and program.
Hold on. Invoice gambling for consulting. $12,000.
I believe I may have made an in-kind donation to one of your rescue nonprofits.
Right. Well, that does bring up a great point, and it's on my list, Naz, is the amount of money that you can waste with consultants and with people that you hire who get in your ear and tell you what you need. Back when I was in the website design and software business, it would cost you one thing if you hired me to do it in the beginning. It would cost you something else if you were hiring me to fix someone else's mistakes.
Yeah.
So a lot of times digital entrepreneurs who, and again, it's not because they're silly or stupid, they're just ignorant as to how things work and they're used to hiring consultants. But a lot of times you got to keep in mind consultants are billing you by the hour, they're marking up the hardware. So that $5,000 server that you were sold but didn't really need, if you tried to turn around and sell that now on eBay, you might get $50 for it.
Right.
So Nez, you're a consultant. I want you to just kind of address that. If I'm an entrepreneur and I come to you and you're a tech consultant, should I listen to every word you say as gospel, or should I keep my own brain going during the process?
Yeah, that's a great question. And
thanks for asking.
Thank you for asking. What unbelievable questions you ask, sir.
Just remarkable.
And I'm happy to answer that. Right
if
after
I
this
could just
message.
input, guys, please don't do things like that while I'm taking a sip of water, because I don't have windshield wipers on my webcam.
Now we're going to time that. We're going to time that specifically.
We can do it. We can do the entire blooper reel of Gamlin spitting water. By the way, I get that on every freaking show. Go ahead, Ness.
I think the important thing about what you just said there is trusting your instincts is huge. I think as how do you say that again? I think as entrepreneurs,
entrepreneurial.
Yeah. We need to come up with an acronym. But for entrepreneurs, I think one of the distinct characteristics of being an entrepreneur is kind of having the guts to follow your guts. Because, getting in line in other sort of fields, especially in the sort of 9-to-5 grind, you don't really have to worry about your guts or your instincts. But being a successful entrepreneur, especially a digital entrepreneur, I think your guts and your instincts and your intuition are your best friends. So I think, when it comes to understanding who I am and what I feel that I flourish, what department I flourish in, which is the writing, the editing, and the communications and the live streaming, then I go all in on that. However, when it comes to something, let's say, for example, for design, I consulted with Nick Nimmin, name drop. I consulted with Nick Nimmin to, design something for me.
Double name drop.
Double name
drop.
Did I double name drop?
You Nick Nimmin twice in one breath.
I did. So, I outsourced that but I worked with this individual.
But you were smart to do so.
Yeah. But let me, absolutely. But also, so I knew that wasn't my forte. And I think that's what I think this is important to get across to everybody listening and watching, is to understand that it's okay if that's not your forte. Don't try to do everything at once. But at the same time, you need to give feedback. Don't just say, okay, hey, go do this for me. bring it back to me and send it to me and bam, here we go. I think you need to really communicate your vision, communicate your purpose, see if it's aligned, work with that consultant. It's collaborative. It's not just a one-way dictatorship, if you will. It's collaborative. It needs to be you involved in the conversation.
Yep. The biggest mistake you can make when dealing with graphic designers, website designers, programmers, tech people, the biggest mistake you could make is saying, well, you're the expert.
Yeah.
I trust you. You're the expert. Man, don't ever let me tell you, when I was again in the website design business, we would look at a couple of things, and we talked about this on other shows, is, who is your audience? What's your purpose? What's your content? And you need to vocalize all that to whomever you hire to design and bring your website to life if you do so. The other point there, Nez, that you make so eloquently, there's a big word.
And it's an adverb.
Nobody's ever described me like that.
I know. I'm trying. I'm breaking new ground.
This is history in the making.
The point you made is, what's the best use of your time? And what is the best use of your expertise? And you mentioned Nick Nimmin, who is just an incredible graphic designer who, for less than $200, will brand your graphics
very
across YouTube. Doing that was not your focus. That's not how you make your money. So the money you spent on Nick doing that was money well spent, and it saved you the time from having to do it. But I think the big takeaway there is, what is the best use of your time? Farm out those things that you are not an expert at, but always keep control. Always maintain control. If you get someone to do a website design for you, they need to come back with design samples before you give them the go ahead and do the entire job.
And this is a mindset thing too. I mean, a lot of I don't know about you guys. I'm sure Tim and Steve feel this way, but I like to do everything, but it's just not feasible. Yeah, it's not practical. And I don't want anybody touching my stuff. I don't want anybody touching my broadcast, my editing, my design. But there comes a point in time where, it really, and being entrepreneurs, you are self-sufficient. I mean, just naturally, I think being an entrepreneur, you enjoy, there is a little bit of that sort of, hey, this is my way or the highway kind of thing. Yeah. But I think humbling yourself and understanding, like what Tim said so eloquently, that's going to be our phrase of the day.
That's the new thing.
But I think what you said was so smart, is it allows me time to create the content that I want. And it relieves me of the anxiety and stress. Am I branding myself? Is my design up to par? Is it professional?
Yeah. I think a lot of entrepreneurs, Stephen, I want you to talk about this, is we all talk to so many online entrepreneurs who have read that damn 4-Hour Workweek book.
Oh, yeah.
And they think that they can get online and work 4 hours and everything is just hunky-dory. So there's this outsourcing mentality that came out of that book. And to Tim Ferriss's credit, he was able to outsource things to the point where he could only work 4 hours a week. And now he's built a platform on that sort of thing. But, what I tell my clients is, don't be so damn in a hurry to outsource. You know, hey, where do I hire? I've been in business for 3 hours now. Where do I get my first virtual assistant? Or, I mean, we hear that, right? It's really not an exaggeration. Yeah. So,
no, it's not.
Steve, talk a little bit about that. There comes a point where you have to delegate and farm out tasks because you can't do everything, but there just seems to be this mentality that, gosh, I've got to get to that 4-hour work week, by Friday, or I'm just a failure online.
Right. And, fortunately or unfortunately, because I have read the 4-Hour Workweek, I thought it was a great book.
How long did it take you to read?
4 hours. Whole week worth of reading right there. I think too many people see that and they see everything is, an escape hatch. It's an ejection seat from reality. And, while it's a way that worked out for this person. But too many people look at that and they think that it's the rule and not the exception. And they think immediately, like you said, I've been in business 3 hours, I need a virtual assistant. Or in my world, in the speaking world, I have people say, hey, I just did my first free speech. Where do I find a speaker agent or a bureau?
Yeah. I'm ready.
I've been at this 13 years, and I've been very fortunate to have a relationship with a bureau for 5 years. We just did my first booking together a couple months ago. Now this is, it's long term, and there was no expectation. For a while, you kind of have to do everything until you figure out who you are, what your message is, and all the things we talked about earlier. But then to understand that when you do outsource, you have to find people, and you guys touched on this beautifully, and I just wanted to add this part, who understand your voice and understand your style. Otherwise, if you have, say if you want somebody to build a website, they do a website and you're looking at it, you go, wow, this is great. And then somebody comes and looks at your website and said, oh, you use this person? Yeah, all of that person's websites look exactly like this.
Yeah. I actually was involved in a situation once. I was consulting with a huge company. I mean, a Fortune 100 company on designing, redesigning their chain of websites and reworking their intranet. And one of the designers who did not work for me it was with another company. We were sitting we were sitting on a show, and I had a stroke. It was amazing. We were sitting in a meeting, and this website designer was showing his designs, and I'm like, those look really familiar to me. And within 2 seconds, I went online and found one of those template websites where they sell templates for $49.
Oh, no.
He had just pulled a bunch of those and were using those as his own design. Now, being the tactful person that I am, I called him out on it immediately. But
a little mushroom cloud in the front row.
Like,
exactly. Is there anything left of him?
Well, like I said, if he had worked for me, he wouldn't have worked for me past that point. He was with someone else. We've got about 5 minutes left. And the one thing that I want to touch on here to wrap up kind of goes with everything we've talked about, and that is keeping your content fresh. And by that, I mean, I think there's this mentality with some digital entrepreneurs that they just build a website and they leave it alone. They never have to touch it again. They never have to update the text, the pictures, the content. Let's talk a little bit, Steve, in a minute or so, talk a little bit about the importance of keeping that content fresh. Even if you're our buddy, Joe, the air conditioner guy, if you've got a website, it is important that it change on occasion.
Yeah. I think it goes along with people that never change their outgoing voicemail message or their mailboxes are full. People are going to wonder, does this person even still in business when they see the same thing and hear the same thing every single day? Or if at the bottom of the website, a little more people hide it these days, it says last updated on, for Y2K compliance. Yay, we're good. You've got to keep something related. If you have an air conditioning company and you say, hey, here's our new van, and you look and it's a 2003 Dodge, that might not be good. So you want to stay current, you want to stay fresh, and good. Just let people, just give people the vibe that you care enough about your business to at least change things up now and then, or at least keep something relative to, modern times in there. That's very important to me anyway.
Yeah. Yep. Nez, you have thoughts on that?
Yeah, no, currency is validity. So staying current, making sure that you are, staying aware of what's happening, in your space and your niche, and contributing. You need to contribute something. You need to actually, whether it's, if you're Joe, the air conditioner guy, or what have you, staying up to date on everything that's happening and adapting and making sure. I mean, it's very difficult to create constantly creating evergreen content, know, so you need to, it's, if you're not commenting, if you're not creating fresh content that relates to events and specific things happening within your niche every single, at least weekly, I mean, I'm kind of speaking in the context of YouTube, and YouTube actually pushes that tab new. Currency is and why it's something about reading something fresh or consuming something fresh. Right. I don't know about you guys, Tim and Steve, but it just feels much more relevant. And it feels, if it doesn't have that relevancy, I don't even want to really consume it, to be honest. So now that requires more work. Right. And if you're adverse to work, you should not be an entrepreneur. I mean, we talk about passive income, and I know we're running out of time here. There's nothing passive about passive income. No, you can ask Steve and Tim. I'm working 24/7. I mean, it feels like that, Yeah.
Well, passive income is almost an oxymoron.
It's so oxymoron.
We'll devote an entire show to that. I think I want to wrap up because we've got about a minute and a half left.
Sure.
It really comes down to knowing yourself, knowing your business, knowing your product, knowing your audience, doing the research so you don't waste a ton of money on tech, on consulting, on hardware and software. I wish we had more time. I could tell you how I wasted $7,000 on a piece of software that I never used.
We'll put that in the live show.
Well, there's a lot of crying and moaning on that one right there. But so I think that's it. Just do your homework, do your research, get help, but also keep control and keep a level head. Now, on the next show, we are going to go in depth in domain names because that's a topic that requires an entire show on its own. So, hey, don't forget the show comes to you every Tuesday and Friday at noon Pacific time, and then we do a live show on Wednesday afternoons. Make sure you subscribe. Click on that button down there. Subscribe to our YouTube channel. Find us on Facebook. And we are everywhere. And you know what? Like we always say, it's an entertainment value because it's absolutely free. And as Nez would say, you get what you pay for. All right, guys. It's been fun. Next time, we're going to talk domains. Make sure you come back. See you guys.
See ya.
See ya.